A sudden laughter scattered from her eyes a threatening wisdom. He smiled and let her laugh, then looked into the dark where there was nothing. "There's more in this than I have seen," he thought, "though I shall see it." "Drink," she said again. "There's only this much in the world of it, and I am near to giving all to you, because you are so great, and I so little." With a long kindling gaze that caught from hers a laughing flame, and with a hand that shook like Arthur's kingdom, Merlin slowly raised a golden cup that for a golden moment was twinned in air with hers. And Vivian, who smiled at him across their gleaming rims, from eyes that made a fuel of the night surrounding her, shot glory over gold at Merlin, while their cups touched and his trembled. He drank, not knowing what, nor caring much for kings who might have cared less for themselves, he thought, had all the darkness and wild light that fell together to make Vivian been there before them then to flower anew through sheathing crimson into candlelight, with each new leer of their loose liquorish eyes. Again he drank, and he cursed every king who might have touched her even in her cradle. For what were kings to such as he, who made them and saw them totter, for the world to see and heed, if the world would? He drank again, and yet again, to make himself assured no manner of king should have the last of it, the cup that Vivian filled unfailingly until she poured for nothing. "At the end of this incomparable flowing gold," she prattled on to Merlin, who observed her solemnly, "I fear there may be specks." He sighed aloud, whereat she laughed at him and pushed the golden cup a little nearer. He scanned it with a sad anxiety, and then her face likewise, and shook his head as if at her concern for such a matter. "Specks? What are specks? Are you afraid of them?" He murmured slowly with a drowsy tongue. "There are specks everywhere. I fear them not. If I were king in Camelot, I might fear more than specks, but now I fear them not. You are too strange a lady to fear specks." He stared a long time at the cup of gold before him, but he drank no more. There came between him and the world a crumbling sky of black and crimson, with a crimson cloud that held a far-off town of many towers. All swayed and shaken till at last they fell, and there was nothing but a crimson cloud that vanished into nothing, like the sky that vanished with it, carrying away the world, the woman, and all memory of them, until a slow light of another sky made grey an open casement, showing him faint shapes of an exotic furniture that glimmered with a dim magnificence, and letting in the sound of many birds that were, as he lay there remembering, the only occupation of his ears, until it seemed they shared a fainter sound, as if a sleeping child, with a black head beside him, drew the breath of innocence. One shining afternoon around the fountain, as on the shining day of his arrival, the sunlight was alive with flying silver that had for Merlin a more dazzling flash than jewels rained in dreams, and a richer sound than harps, and all the morning stars together, when jewels and harps and stars and everything that flashed and sang and was not Vivian seemed less than echoes of her least of words, for she was coming. Suddenly, somewhere behind him, she was coming. That was all he knew until she came, and took his hand, and held it while she talked about the fishes. When she looked up, he thought a softer light was in her eyes than once he had found there, and had there been left yet for dusky women a beauty that was heretofore not hers, he told himself that he must have seen it then before him in the face at which he smiled and trembled. "Many men have called me wise," he said, "but you are wiser than all wisdom if you know what you are." "I don't," she said. I know that you and I are here together. I know that I have known for 20 years that life would be almost a constant yawning until you came. And now that you are here, I know that you are not to go away until you tell me that I'm hideous. I know that I like fishes, ferns, and snakes. Maybe because I liked them when the world was young and you and I were salamanders. I know, too, a cool place not far from here, where there are ferns that are like marching men who never march away. Come now and see them, and do as they do. Never march away. When they are gone, some others, crisp and green, will have their place, but never march away. He smoothed her silky fingers one by one. Some other Merlin also, do you think, will have his place, and never march away? Then Vivian laid a finger on his lips and shook her head at him before she laughed. There is no Merlin other than yourself, and you are never going to be old. Oblivious of a world that made of him a jest, a legend, and a long regret, and with a more commanding wizardry than his to rule a kingdom where the king was Love and the queen Vivian, Merlin found his queen without the blemish of a word that was more rough than honey from her lips, or the first adumbration of a frown to cloud the night-wild fire that in her eyes had yet a smoky friendliness of home, and a foreknowing care for mighty trifles.